Good evening everyone, welcome to my final thoughts video on Kokomi. So obviously we've been doing lots of Kokomi content on the channel, defending the character and properly characterizing what the character's role is and what your expectation should be if you decide to pull for her. I think I'm one of the very few YouTubers that actually puts her into a proper context of where she's good and sort of characterizes what her actual role is. So I'm sort of like tired of defending Kokomi because I don't need to defend a character I love. I rolled for her because I like the aesthetics, the breath of fresh air in terms of her design. So I'm going to be continuing now with a bit of different content, like cooldown reductions, and I've got all sorts of cool ideas, so please stay forward. But in this final thought video, all I want to say is I really like Kokomi. She's really an awesome character, and I think the entire Genshin community is doing such a disservice to her. Like recently what I've been seeing is people take a Barbara, they stack all sorts of like health and food buffs, they take whale supports, again not accessible to the majority of free-to-play players by the way, and what they'll do is they'll do a like nuke showcase, let's say against the Primo Geovishap, where the Barbara does like 360k charge attack, and then after 3 hits they've killed the Primo Geovishap. And the obvious implication, and even though it's not stated on the video, is that Barbara can do this, but Kokomi cannot. Therefore, Kokomi who? Kokomi trash, whatever, you know how people are. And I find that sort of thing to be extremely dishonest, because A, you can take any character in the game, and if you pair them with whale supports, and you do a very specific choreographed routine against very specific bosses in a very specific sequence, then you can get characters like even Xing Shu to hit like 700k with his E. Any other character in this game that scales multiplicatively, in other words, you get all your damage buffs, and at the end on your outgoing damage you then add crit damage on top of that, so it multiplies all your damage sources. You can do that with like a lot of that cast in this game, and you can hit like really big numbers if you've got the right supports. So for people to compare multiplicative like scaling versus linear scaling, which is what Kokomi has, despite the fact that Kokomi's base linear scaling is higher than most of the characters' auto attacks, but that's a different topic, to compare those two unfairly and then to imply that Kokomi is trash because of it really is quite, I think, childish. If you take a lot of those setups, take that like exact same Barbara setup, and you put it into a spiral abyss, it won't be consistent. And I think this is my final thought on Kokomi. She is a consistent character, and that's what I love about her. I don't have to do like 20, I'm not sitting here in the spiral abyss like every day doing like 40-50 runs just to like impress you guys with Kokomi. It's like what you'll see now on screen is like just an ordinary average run. I haven't planned any of this, but look at the Raiden Shogun's health and you'll see it's just going down and down. And now the Raiden Shogun's finished her ultimate, so what's she gonna do? Her auto attacks and stuff is way too low. So now we've got Kokomi coming in here doing an absolute like 40k damage every 1.2 seconds, and now we've got Raiden Shogun up again. So what has happened is we've got a character that very consistently healed and even filled the dead space, like that in between moment where the Raiden Shogun is offline, Kokomi has filled. So what you can see here is I'm now like sort of using my ultimate on Kokomi, and right there you can see that's exactly like 50, 60, 70, 80k damage with Kokomi. And there we go, now that the Raiden Shogun's back online, and there you can see it, now we've already charged Kokomi's ultimate. Pretty cool, right? So Kokomi Raiden Shogun's pretty awesome, but what you can see in this clip is a very high level of consistency, even though I'm not playing optimally, even though I'm not doing all the dodges, not hitting all the enemies, etc, etc, and there's lots of work that you can improve this run with, the outcome is very consistent, and that is what Kokomi is all about. She's a general support that can tank a lot of damage, she can heal and attack simultaneously, and what she's really used for is what you can really think of Kokomi as, she's a great character if you've got like lots of burst spamming and now you've got this dead air to fill, and now so what you then do is you then take Kokomi and then you can then do consistent damage with her. So you don't have to worry about getting a lucky critical hit. And that's the thing, critical hits, if you work mathematically, you get the expected number of damage, but obviously the lower your critical hit rate, the greater the variance on that is. Kokomi not scaling with crit rate takes out all that variable damage, and you get a very consistent damage. So I know if I'm going to swap to my Kokomi right now, I don't need to worry about the damage she's going to do. I can be very consistent in my Spiral Abyss runs, because I know, you can see there on screen, that the 100k or whatever she did is pretty consistent in the downtime. And take Barbara, take any other character, any other support, put them in this exact same scenario, and they won't be able to fill in that dead air. So what does some character like Bennett do? Bennett essentially does damage by amplifying other people's damage. That is his value. What does Barbara do? Barbara does like this continuous cleansing. Of course, that has a downside that you can freeze yourself, and then she does burst healing. But in the previous like little flaw that I showed you, Barbara won't work, because after you've done your burst like healing, you can't really do damage, because where's your cough whale supports to do 300k? They're nowhere. So you don't have that consistency, whereas with Kokomi, you've got that consistency. Even if you have a gene, like most characters, even the Raiden Shogun's normal auto attacks don't do that much damage. Whereas if you just have Kokomi and you use her for ultimate, she does consistent damage. And that is what I love about this character. Such a breath of fresh air, such a consistent character. The way you have to build her, everything. So honestly guys, I love the character, and screw all the haters. Yeah, that's it. I would no more to say. Cheers.